So, do you prefer arcade games, or are you more like a pinball wizard sort of person? This is the question of 1982's Arcade Attack, or Arcade Attack Silverball Heroes vs. Video Invaders, a 24-minute documentary on London's arcade and parlor gaming scene in the early 1980s. But first, before we even begin to answer that, creepy little laughing sailor robots. Enjoy! Thankfully, these and other fun items were locked up in a classic arcade in Brighton, shown here in the documentary at the Palace Pier. Understandably, the IRA tried to blow this pier up, I would say to send the screaming sailor menace into the sea, making it a problem for Atlantis and not us, which is a good thing. Unfortunately, the plan didn't work, so this thing is probably still out there, stifling little sailor laughs as it watches you while you take showers or quietly participate in furry fandoms online. I don't know, what do you do in your free time? To be honest, with material like this, sussing out Arcade Attack's purpose as a movie is initially probably as indiscernible as figuring out video games was for stuffy old British adults in the 1980s. Some parts of Arcade Attack are straightforward if slightly leery looks at the early arcade video gaming scene and the prodigy players that zoned out in front of the cabinets when not starring in rushed music videos. These parts feel both in awe of the digital revolution and in quiet worry over what it is exactly that's coming. Other parts of the documentary are coverage of certain man caves in 1980s London. Man caves that are loud not with the screams of robotic arcade voices or sailors, thankfully, but with wistful nostalgia for America in the 1950s. Elvis music, Buddy Holly tattoos, sudden alarming Confederate racism, back to rocker hairstyles, and of course, the day the music died in 1959 emblazoned here on a pinball machine, Edwardian Dreams. Or, as it's called, pins. Maybe because when you're playing a game of pinball, you are on pins and needles. No, I just made that up. It's a pretty good guess, though, right? Anyway, pinball machines of yore versus arcade machines. This is the question the documentary now asks. Which is the best way to dispose of your loose change? With the two players established, a dialogue begins. One side is defender champion Stephen Highfield. The other side is pinball, pinhead? Enthusiast Jeff Harvey. They both reveal what they think about each other's hobby, getting as catty as a warehouse at a cat food factory. It's pretty great. So apparently, the two sides don't like each other. The arcade people think that pinball is too primitive and elemental to be entertaining. The pinball people think that the computer is too predetermined to ever be exciting. It's not the real thing, right? So apparently the console wars of the 1990s and the 00s or aughts or whatever you want to call them weren't the first rivalry in gaming. Everyone remembers Sega versus Nintendo, right? The two scoff at one another. They've both poured hundreds of hours and thousands of coins into their preferred time sinks. It seems kind of funny now looking back. I mean, were arcade machines really that scary to people? Were pinball people really worried about their hobby being taken over by robotic machines from Japan and America? I guess so. On whichever side these two guys chose, I hope both knew how lucky they were to have escaped the laughing sailor hell of the penny arcade. So, Arcade Attack, it's a quaint gaming documentary. Not much else, right? Once you get past the skinhead gamers, it's just a bit of fun. Wrong. Before you can say Ready Player One, the air is alive with the electric fury of the invaders from space. The Space Invaders. That rivalry we saw before, that was just level 1 of the movie. Level 2 is war. The Space Invaders have launched Blitz 2.0, blasting Elvis cosplayers down to their period-appropriate shoes as they hover overhead. It's up to the pinball backbox art to stop the coin-munching menace. Multiple heroes, monsters, and in between all launch themselves out of pinball machines and begin fighting with the invaders in an animated war for the streets of London in Pink Floyd album covers. We have finally arrived at the Arcade Attack, the Silverball Heroes versus the Video Invaders, spoken of in the title, that you were wondering what the hell's going on. Why is there a sailor screaming? What is going on? This is not what I was promised. Well, it's here now. Oh, it is so good. The animation here is keen. There's a constant cycling of creative special effects scenes that are so dynamic you wouldn't try to skip them. And there's plenty of fun jokes that anyone whose palms have ever greased a joystick, not that one, will enjoy. We went from two nerds talking about their hobby to this, to the animated acknowledgement of the inevitability of war. That thing which defines not just most video games, not just most hobbies, but humanity itself. The new arcade usurping the old pin's hold on the minds of the youth, on the minds of the next generation. Arcade Attack is equally fascinating for its material on how now vintage gaming was when it wasn't vintage, as it is for its wholly unique, chaotic, and successful use of documentation, storytelling, and the unexpected. I give Arcade Attack 5 pinball wizards out of 5. The game is never truly over.